Hello and welcome to a brand new season of Pro Tour Magic here on MagicTheGathering.com. I'm your host Randy Buehler alongside Pro Tour historian Mr. Brian David Marshall. You're very welcome. Now hang on, that's not right. In fact, I'm your host Richard Hagon and standing alongside me Mr. Bill Stark. Great to have you with us, Bill. Now, Lorwyn Morningtide. It's a limited Pro Tour. Bill, let's talk a little bit about the draft. What are we looking for? Is this all about colors or is this all about tribes? What's the deal?
Well, Rich, the question on every pro's mind that I've talked to so far has been the impact of race and class going into Lorwyn Morningtide. Most of the pros that I've spoken with have stated a preference for picking the best card in the pack for the first three packs, and then when they get, or first three picks, excuse me, when they get a clear signal in about pick 4 of, say, like a Lisa Lana Huntmaster or a Silver Gildouser, then they're willing to move into a tribe and commit to it fully. The twist on this format now is with Morningtide provided the addition of the relevance of class in addition to race. Players now have to also keep in mind what type of class their creatures have. So they're looking at both race and class.
And so on.
Yep,
that
Shaman,
kind of thing.
Wizard, Warrior,
and
even Knights to some extent. There's just a ton of complexity to this format.
All right, that's something the pros do say. Very complex format. We'll see how it pans out over the week. Now, the shape of the weekend. Limited Pro Tours are brutal, my friends. First rule, you go 0-3 in the first draft, you are gone. You will not be winning Pro Tour Kuala Lumpur. The deal is this. On day 1, you draft, you play 3 rounds. Draft again, 3 more rounds. If you get to 12 points, that's the magic number on day 1 here. 12 points, that gets you into day 2, the chance to draft a 3rd time. They will draft that 3rd draft tonight and then play 1 round. Tomorrow we come back, those draft decks go into cold storage overnight. They play rounds 8 and 9 in the morning. The last remaining, about a third of the field. We're looking at around about 120 players is our rough guess for who comes back on day 2. 2 more drafts, 3 more rounds for each, 15 rounds of Swiss. That means you play someone on the same record as yourself. Now what's key about that is if in the first draft you go, let's say 1 and 2, Bill, you're really up against it. You've got 8 players on your table in that second draft pod, and only 1 of those 8 will make day 2. That's harsh.
Yes, it's a rough day. Any pro will tell you that limited Pro Tours are some of the toughest to get around. If you have the one bad pod or one thing doesn't go your way, you could be watching on Saturday, as early as Saturday. So
okay.
It's tough.
All right, let's look at some of the individual cards, not just from Morningtide, but from Lorwyn. Lorwyn's been with us since October, of course. Some of the cards that you're excited by, the cards that just have stories built into them. What cards do you like, Bill?
2 cards that I like from Lorwyn. I like Nightshade Stinger. Previously that was mostly undrafted, but now with the Prowl cards based on the Rogue strategy in Morningtide, it's actually picked up a lot of value with a number of the pros.
Now this is the 1/1 flyer that can't block, right?
Yep.
Okay, so what's the deal? Why has that suddenly gone up in value so much?
The key element to the Nightshade Stinger is not its stats necessarily, but the fact that it is a fairy and a rogue. So when you come to your Morningtide pack and you're looking at cards like Noggin Whack and Morsel Theft, it's enabling all those to be cast much earlier as turn 2. So what was once a 13, 14, 15 pick is now moved much further up on the pick order. So a lot of pros are respecting that.
All right, what's your second card?
The second card I'm really looking forward to, we've already seen some exciting stuff and some side drafts that have been going on this weekend, is Nevermaker. It's a brand new card from Morningtide.
Nice card. Now this is the 2/3 guy, but it has a Leaves playability, right?
Yes, and it's important to remember that's a Leaves playability, not simply going to the graveyard from
just
play.
Buy, it's gone, it triggers.
So as soon as the creature leaves play, whether it's from dying, going to the graveyard, or simply being bounced, you return a non-land permanent to your opponent's library. Now we've already seen one of the Japanese players completely lock their opponent out using that Nevermaker, the Surge Spanner, which is the 2/2, bounce a permanent if it taps for a blue and 1, and Springleaf Drum.
Oh man.
So outside the combat step, he's locking his opponent out of the draw step each turn, and that's just in a practice draft. So that's one of the cards I'm really excited about.
Okay, for me, this is a set made for drama with Kinship and Clash. You're looking at cards where what you reveal from the top of your library is going to win games. Think of a card like Lash Out. You'll all know Lash Out. What life are you on? 2. Win the Clash, you're dead. Then we look into Morningtide. You're looking at things like Release the Ants. And that's just 1 damage at a time. But if you can set up to win the Clash, and your opponent's desperately searching for a high casting cost card to stop the Ants, you're on 3 life maybe, you could be in big trouble. Obviously, Titan's Revenge is another. But the big winner, I think, is Nightshade Schemers. I've got a lot of time for that. Well, look, over the next 2 days, we're going to preview the Player of the Year race, but now it's time for our top 8. So, first off, we've got a couple of guys on the screen here that we pretty much both agree on. We've got Olivier Rouel of France and a guy you know very well, Bill,
Yes.
Moraine Libert of Belgium.
Yep, I've spent the past week with Moraine drafting the format, and the Belgian team really, or the Belgian players, really understand this format, and I think they've got a strong chance to make top 8.
Okay, next up, for me, I've got Frank Karsten of the Netherlands, Dutch guy, undefeated at Worlds in Limited. That's my pick. And for you, Bill?
Luis Scott Vargas, Paul Chion normally might be my pick. Feeling a little under the weather this weekend, so I take LSV.
Okay. Next up for me, I take Steve Sadin. Now, this could be the next big guy in American Magic from the top 8 Magic stable with BDM. I think I've got a lot of time for Steve. I think this could be a breakout year for him.
I like Steve, won't take anything away from him, but I think Chris Lockman, one of the Sliver kids from San Diego, is the real deal. I think the 2HG Pro Tour was not a fluke. I talked to him today. He's got over 50 drafts in the format, feels he really understands it. I think he's a strong pick.
Okay. Next up, next pair of differences, I've got Zvi Moshevitz, Hall of Famer. You've gone for the current Rookie of the Year, Yuya Watanabe.
Yep. Watanabe, I spoke to him at Worlds, playtest with Saito, very confident in trying to get the Player of the Year race this year, 1 year after the Rookie of the Year.
Okay.
And when you're working with Saito, he's a good guy to work with.
All right, well, next for me is a Pro Tour winner. He won Ravnica Draft in Prague to Kiya Osawa, runner-up this time last year in Geneva to Mike Rohn. Who have you got?
I've got Kenji Samura, a man who's looking to get a first Pro Tour victory, often credited as one of the world's best, needs that championship to really seal that title.
I have another Japanese player, Shuhei Nakamura, the leader in this year's Player of the Year race, because he won Grand Prix Stuttgart, post-Worlds, pre-2008. So he's the early leader in that race. And you've got?
The current reigning Player of the Year, Tomohiro Saito. And we've already mentioned that he worked with Yuya Watanabe, who picked up the Rookie of the Year title last year. Easy bet to take Saito to top 8.
And great hair, Tomohiro Saito. You've got to say that. Well, my final pick, everyone's favorite recording format, PVDDR. It's Paulo Vitor Dama da Rosa of Brazil. A great guy, a real ambassador for the game, loves the game and loves to compete. I like him a lot. And your wild card?
Yes, I have a bit of a dark horse in Nikolai Potovin, the Russian. He's already got a Grand Prix win, and I think he's one of those players who's just waiting for his breakout performance. I think Kuala Lumpur could be that.
All right, well, lots to come on the Tournament Centre throughout the weekend with Bill and myself. Before we go, little trivia question for you. There's no prize, so don't go and cheat. There's no need. So here's the question. Kenji Samura, Ryan So, Ding Leong, and Masahiko Morita, what do they all have in common? So that's Kenji Samura, Ryan So, Ding Leong, and Masahiko Morita. What do they all have in common? Well, we'll tell you on the Kuala Lumpur Tournament Centre #2 when we come back. But for now, I'm your host for Bill Stark, Rich Hagan, saying bye.